All right, everyone, and welcome back to Press Turn, the video game podcast. Happy New Year, everybody. We made it
Happy
through
New Year.
yet another year of pain. Um, Everyone's hanging in there. Good job. Uh, Good hustle, team. Really, really brought it together. Still made some mistakes, but it's a it's a learning process. We'll get through this eventually. But
One day at a time.
anyway. Let's distract ourselves from everything and talk about video games for a bit. So that's fun. Anyway, I'm Sam. I'm the host.
And I'm Jonathan. Unlike Derek, I play M-rated games.
Hey, come on, that's not his fault, man. He's a father to too many children, but still. But anyway, yeah. It's been a while, so we might have a lot to cover. Hopefully not too much, but we got a pretty good uh topic for discussion today. Who knows how long it's gonna run us? So, you know what? Let's just get right into it, Jonathan. Uh,
Let's
take
go.
take me through your 2021,
Okay. So since we
or
last
just the
talked,
holidays. That's
very well. All right. Hang on. I'm gonna take a 70% of this list off. Just kidding.
uh oh.
All right. So I took some last things that we talked about into account. So I tried to pick JoJo back up. Did pretty well. They got into the discussion of Hamon and they started fighting the dead in Dio again. And I think I'm on the episode right before uh, Jonathan's tale is going to end, from what I remember. I
Mm-hmm.
just decided to go back and restart, so everything's fresh in my mind. So I get into the earlier or late the next episodes and titles of JoJo.
Mm.
But I stopped because, well, uh, I watched the new Disney movie Encanto, and judging from the reception that everyone has received, and from my own personal opinions, it's a actually really decent movie. They have done a good job with um I want to say cultural appropriation. It felt great. It felt like I was watching a movie that was um in another culture and still had that Disney flair to it. Let's see. I as far as games are going, um, I for some reason I felt the need to go back and pick up Crash Team Racing because it's been a while since I played it and finished it.
Oh,
There
okay.
was tons of things to still unlock and play, and I love the little orange fuzzy guy, and so I played that for a little bit, and I got back to it. Finished Darksiders 2.
Oh, wait. Actually, I wanted to ask real quick.
Go for it.
So CTR or Mario Kart?
CGR, I grew up with it, and I've only ever played a little bit of Mario Kart.
I always find this conversation interesting.
Mhm.
Mainly because like for myself, I've never played either a whole lot, but I have more experience with Mario Kart. Um, but usually I feel like when you talk about classic kart racing games, it's Mario Kart, um, Diddy Kong Racing, and CTR.
Yep.
But ever since like the remaster, I guess, of CTR, it seems like there's like a lot there's like a much bigger voice for that game now, compared to before, and I guess it's mainly just because um, most people are more familiar with Nintendo rather than PlayStation, but now it's just like because Crash Team Racing has come back, then all of a sudden it's just like a lot of people were just going like, "Oh yeah, I played that game. Good."
Mm, yeah, and I feel like thanks to the love and care that Beanox put into the remaster, and also adding over a year's worth of additional content that was never in the game before. Uh, I like it even more. Um, and I have played multiple Mario Kart games, and they're always solid, and you'll never have a problem playing a Mario or a Nintendo game. It's funny you mentioned that most people you say would be a Nintendo fan or would play Mario Kart more, but I've only really have not met that many Nintendo people.
Mm,
So it's interesting you say that.
okay.
Yeah, but I think now we've got this new space where everybody can have access to the games on the same console, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and Crash Team Racing Nitro Refueled,
Mhm.
and so they can tell for themselves which game is is better, or if you want to talk it that way. But I don't know. I'm in my own personal life, I'm trying to come away with, oh, which IP is better, because I'm starting to see that most games now are just apples and orange comparisons. And this will maybe tie in later to a point I have to make about Metroidvanias. But um, yeah, Mario games are great for their polish and for their replayability. Certainly, they're not. I, I would say a critique is their depth, but someone can talk to me about that later. But which is what I feel that the Crash game has, uh, and only in specific to Nitro Kart, because of the multiple games they pulled from, uh, not just Crash Team Racing from the PS1, but Nitro Kart from the PS2, and a mobile game which died on the iOS years ago. They pulled characters from that as well.
Okay.
So, yeah, um,
Oh,
and
so I guess, like, is it more like a what do you call it? Um, is it more just like, a remaster of all those games just together then?
I yes and no,
Okay.
because I don't know if any of the tracks specifically from maybe the mobile game were worthy of bringing back, but some of the Nitro Kart tracks did come forward from the PS2 Game Boy Advance version of the game. Uh, Along with brand new tracks that were never seen before or made. So yeah, you could look at it like that.
Okay. I'll, maybe if there's a sale still going on, I'll have to look that up then. Because I actually picked up, Mario Kart 8 recently, and, I'm I am enjoying my time, with that, but it's just like I just wanna mess with all the vehicles, and it takes so long to unlock everything in that game.
Really,
Yeah.
I thought everything in deluxe was already unlocked at the beginning.
Well, technically, so Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is, the previous game with all the DLC included, but you still have to unlock everything, and I think in total it's like, uh, I don't know the exact number, but I think it was like 1,800 coins that
Mm,
you have to get, through racing just to unlock everything. Excuse me. Um, so yeah, it's just like, while it is letting me just kinda like, get very used to the controls, it's also just like, I still feel like I'm not getting to, like, really come up with, like, my personal setup. I'm still
mhm.
just, like, trying things here and there, so yeah, I don't know, but yeah, if CTR, or, Nitro-Fueled rather, uh offers a similar experience, then I may as well just try that out too. We'll have to see.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But anyway, go ahead
Um,
and continue.
okay, yeah, we can talk about that later.
Mhm.
Other news, I finished Darksiders 2, which if anyone really knows about the PC port of Darksiders 2, that is a miracle. The game is buggy, and
Mm.
there's a point in the game that absolutely crashes the game unless you install a patch that comes with it from the beginning. Uh, and it's funny because I've never met anything like this before. So if you come and meet a certain character more than halfway through the game, odds are, as the player, you will level up when you start that cutscene, because it's that sort of progression where once you start the cutscene, technically the quest is finished. So you're leveling up. Odds are you will level up, and because of that level up, you've frozen the game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Um,
So so you gotta install this patch, which kinda changes some of the layout of button prompts on the screen, but it manages to, get you leveled up and also manages to process the start of the cutscene, which you can then continue.
mm.
And I thought that was gonna be the worst of it, but not only did I
Turns
go
out there
through
was
that.
another boss hidden in the game.
Yeah. And I beat the final boss. And, I had a weird and I wanted to blame it on my controller setup, but I had a Switch controller and I had headphones plugged into it. So I beat the final boss, I sit the controller down, I'm like, I wanna take the headphones out, listen to the audio from my PC, froze everything.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
audio kept going, no screen, and I couldn't exit. I couldn't exit the game. I couldn't, uh, I couldn't even get to the process or the task manager, and even from the task
Oh,
manager,
so it hard crashed then.
it hard crashed. I had to
Wow,
reset the computer entirely,
man.
and, of course, had to fight the boss again, and I'm like, "Okay, I just won't do any of that. I'll fight the boss and win." Again! The I I somehow I was stuck in one of the boss's attacks, but I killed him. And so the ending killing scene, kinda like the God of War-esque ending, kill sequence, it was happening, but my character was off to the side, still stuck in the attack, so I had free roam of the camera, and I could roam around the battle scene. I could watch my character, and I took pictures of it 'cause this was hilarious, but I was watching I was watching Death defeat his foe at the end. Meanwhile, I'm also off to the side stuck. And there was an audio clip that Death has where he's making that struggling noise while he's stuck. Well, that stayed while the entire game finished. So I was hearing this ending dialogue while also hearing
Just
I'm
just,
I'm
you
so
know,
stuck.
one of the angelic manifestations of the end times, waxing poetic across a war-torn earth, and then in the distance, you just hear, like,
Like, are you
That's
serious?
my
I'm
best
so
impression of the Bloodborne scream. Um,
so I've never so quickly ended a game and uninstalled it and was so happy to be done. I was like, "Man, what a mess."
but you
Uh,
did beat it again.
I did.
Nice.
I credits rolled and, managed to take the guy out a second time.
That's, I feel like for anything, when someone just said, "Yep, hit the credits and finished it," and it's just like, man, that must not have been a good time. If
Oh,
if you're just going,
yeah.
"Yeah, I hit the credits, and I don't wanna think about it anymore."
Yeah, and for an otherwise game that, I guess according to the old Xbox 360's ratings, did a whole lot better than the first game. which I humongously disagree. But I couldn't find any recent reviews unless, of course, also on Steam, but they were more still just talking about the, "Here, use this patch because 'cause you'll get to this point and it'll freeze."
Mm.
Nobody was talking about anything else, so it might have just been me.
Well,
Uh,
I mean, that game is fairly old, and to be honest, like,
yeah.
ah, excuse me, sorry, there's just like something stuck in my throat. Um, I think, yes, death. It's plague. Darksiders 4 is stuck in my throat. Um, uh, what is it? When did Darksiders 2 come out? Um, was it like I'm not even gonna guess. I'm just gonna look it up.
Yeah. The 360 port or 360. Oh, 2012.
2012. Oh, okay. So it is actually kind of out of that era, but I guess it could be on the it could be considered like on the back end of it. I feel like a lot of PC ports around that time were not very good in general. I mean,
Yeah. I think I know what
like
you're saying.
what was it? Dead Space when that game got ported to PC. Oh my goodness, just if that was your first time playing the game, talk about an immersion annihilator from start to finish. Just because, like,
Oh, that's close.
because you know how sophisticated those models are, like the necromorph models, where it's like you could blow off the chunks of their limbs and everything, and
Yeah, that's some sophisticated, like, work right there.
yeah, for that to work along with ragdolling at the time. So the problem is that I guess someone forgot to like move some numbers here and there because sometimes you'll just kill one and then the ragdoll will just be like will just go Jesus take the wheel and just go flying. Just be like sometimes it'll just be like very subtle and just like gently roll away a little bit longer than it really should. And then other times it'll just be like it's just like it's got a mind of its own. It's like looking at a headless chicken in the video game, and it's just like moving back and forth like everywhere. It's run off the walls. It's on the ceiling. It's constantly making a racket.
That
Just
is so funny.
just like
Making a
literally
racket.
basic video game collision sounds, like in Half Life 2 or something. So you just hear like, and as you look at this like horribly like mutilated body just all of a sudden become like the dumbest thing you've ever seen. It just becomes like a sideshow act. Uh,
That yeah. I love watching all of those compilations of any bad glitched ragdoll physics on YouTube from any game. It's hilarious, and
it
you're right.
it's a good time,
Totally
but
totally steals immersion, but yeah, no, it's a good time for the rest of us who really don't care.
yeah. Um, but yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I guess it's just like they hadn't really figured it out at the time. And unfortunately, a lot of them still haven't really figured it out now. Um, what with
Mhm.
oh goodness. The GTA trilogy, Definitive Experience, a very definitive experience. Final
I
Fantasy 7
mean,
remake. What else? I was about to say Halo Infinite, but that's kind of a different issue going on there.
well, if we're going back as far as 2018, God of War still had problems too.
Oh really? Even on console?
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
what? I
Um,
haven't really paid attention too much. So
like Atreus controls, he'll you could just Google it or YouTube it. I think I saw he's like hypersonic speed running around enemies sometimes. Um, Yeah, and yeah, you're right. Oh gosh, even Devil May Cry 5 too. The same thing you were talking about. Like you punch somebody and you kill them, but then instead of just dying, their character model just goes phew off into the distance and way out of there.
Oh goodness, yeah. Oh man, we gotta get off on this because Capcom PC ports. I could talk about that all day. Um,
Yeah.
so
I learned how to almost code thanks to Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition. So yeah, we can get off this subject.
yes. Oh my. Are you talking about the? Are you talking about the one that they brought to Steam or the
The
one
very
with
one.
or oh
The
okay because
very
I
one.
was also thinking of the one with games for Windows Live all the way back then.
Mm-mm. No,
Oh my
the Steam
goodness.
one.
Yeah.
I love that game. 360. That's where I got started with Devil May Cry. Couldn't wait to play it again. Had to learn how to be a programmer all over again.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's kind of messy.
kind of messy. Yeah.
Hopefully, Monster Hunter Rise, the PC port for that will be better. At least
Dear
better
Lord,
than Worlds.
dear Lord, please let it be better.
Fingers crossed, knock on wood, so on and so forth. But you know, keep expectations low. Uh, but, um,
Yeah.
what else have you been up to? Anything else?
Yeah. Picked up Hitman 3 for sale and finished that campaign. The cool thing about IOI when they released Hitman 3 was sometimes their weekends would allow some of their missions to be free on the weekend, and I uh, realized when 3 came out, I got into 2 and 1 and was so happy with them. And loved the games and played as many times as I could. And when they had like an elusive target mission, I was there playing them. So I had already a couple of missions finished by the time I fully bought the game and could play the rest of it. So that's what I meant when I said finish it up. And yeah, great end to the story, just stellar gameplay. I could probably spend a whole episode just talking about what I've read and what I've analyzed from other people talking about the game, and just my own experiences, and just what I like about stealth games in general. Yeah. After that, no, that's about all I've been up to.
Okay. Um, let me think. Uh, I'm just staring at my Steam list right now, but also, oh yeah, picked up Mario Kart 8, obviously. Just figured, you know what? I've been watching some streams, watching some VTubers. Gotta admit,
Mm,
it started to gnaw at me a little bit. And I was like, you know what? I I want a racer, so uh,
that'll do
just
it.
I just decided to pick it up, and that I pretty much said all that I need to say about that. Um, Still fun, either way, but not too bad. Actually, let me check real quick because I think that's pretty much all.
Have you finished the newest season of JoJo?
Oh yeah, I've been caught up for a while, honestly. So and I almost finished like my second viewing, but then I decided, you know what, I'm gonna put it off. I'll probably start it up again pretty soon. Now that it's been a while, but um yeah, I mean I think I mentioned it before, but just like um JoJo Girls this season is pretty fun. It's it's a good time. It's a weird time. It's very bizarre. Uh, hence the name. It I think out of all the bizarre adventures that are currently available in anime form, this is by far the most bizarre.
Ooh.
Like right off the bat. I mean, like even like your main character, Jolene Cujo. her stand is not like the other stands where they just go punchy punch
Mhm.
a whole lot. Like, they don't quite have that power, that same type of power,
Right.
to be able to just punch all the problems away. It's definitely a lot more unique. Um, like the problems that she has to like solve her way out of.
Mhm.
Uh, and I mean like what is it? Like one of my favorite. No, hang on. Two of my favorite characters. No. Mm, mm, okay, now
No.
two of
Two.
my favorite characters are in there. Um, three of my favorite stands are in this part. That's what I'm thinking of. Uh, one of them hasn't shown up yet, so that's gonna be a little bit, but it's still very good. You got a bit of ways away, but honestly, take your time. It sounds like it might be a while before this one finishes up anyway. Uh, due to how how the episodes got leaked beforehand. Um, but yeah, JoJo's still good. Even though I talked about that last time. Let me. Uh, I also finished up the article I had to write for Shin Megami Tensei 5. I definitely struggled a little bit with writing for that one, mostly because from from my experience and from what I've seen so far, from most of the people in our chat room, no one has really touched a Shin Megami Tensei game aside from Persona. So I'm just kind of like, how far should I explain this? Um,
Right. Right.
it's one of those situations where it's like I have a lot of knowledge about the game, but I can't. But obviously, I can't explain all those things for the purpose of of a review because that's not really the point. Um, so I was trying to condense that as much as possible. So it was definitely difficult, and I did ultimately say, well, it was essentially like the only JRPG I played this year to completion. It is easily um one of the best JRPGs I've played of all time. Um
Ooh,
like I
high
feel
praise.
like yeah, and there are some issues, but I think I still ended up giving it like a 9 or a 10. Um if only just because like I feel like even considering all the other Shin Megami Tensei games before it's kind of like a culmination of all the lessons learned from the previous games being brought into this one. While there are still some lingering issues that the series has as a whole, uh, and are and could be kind of considered a step back when you compare it to Shin Megami Tensei 4, in regards to the agency of how some characters act throughout the whole story. But I think even then, it's just like there's something about SMT's storytelling that I really like when playing a video game, and it 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 kind of lets me it lets me just feel out all the little details by myself while just giving me all the more important big details, and then just filling in the gaps of the story from there. I will say I think the human characters are much better written, although I think it could have helped um to at least like appeal to the Persona players a bit more if there were more parts to interact with those characters throughout the game. It's not really needed, but I could kind of see some parts where it's like maybe to sell their motivations more. There could have been like maybe a few more scenes or um, some parts sort of stretched out
Mhm.
to kind of elaborate on their motivations.
I
Um,
got you.
honestly, I think the biggest uh, uh besides talking about the gameplay because that's more of a technical thing, and I know like the little details about that aren't really going to be appealing for everyone. I will say I think the demons absolutely steal the show, which they always should because they're like a core concept for the franchise as a whole. Um, there's just some random ridiculous humor. There's a lot of dark humor as well. Like there's a side quest early on where you're helping a mermaid free her friends from Pazuzu, and then you go fight Pazuzu and like, yo, get out here, Pazuzu. Stop torturing these mermaid girls. And then the mermaid's like, oh, thank you for chasing Pazuzu away. Now me and the girls can get back to tempting sailors and dragging them to their death underwater. And I'm just like, you do that, girl. Do your thing. And I just walked away. It's just like I hope I don't have another side quest where I have to get rid of them because that's gonna be super awkward.
It's funny. That
Uh,
feels like that has that same energy. Do you watch Phineas and Ferb?
I've never actually watched it, but
Oh god.
I think I know what you're talking about.
The Badinkadinks. They opened up some toy factory and they did a Charlie and the Chocolate Factory reference. They're like, "We are the Badinkadinks and we will now lay waste to the human world."
Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of humor, kind of like that in there, which I feel like is thematically appropriate, especially when it's like all mythologies are allowed to exist in the same room. So obviously, it's like, well, some of them are going to have problems with each other, obviously, and even then, there are some there are some conflicts within each mythology that all of them still have to deal with, like
Oh.
Loki literally just uh um or rather Zeus literally demanding her daughter, "Hey, I know I left your mother for dead, but I want you to still do as I say because I'm Zeus." And it's just like,
No, but I get
man,
what you're saying.
I didn't think I'd be this closely involved with the familial matters all this much.
I gotcha. So, okay. So the Shin Megami Tensei focuses on the demons and giving them voices. I did not know that.
It plays around with those characters.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it's very fun, honestly. Like and I feel like Shin Megami Tensei 4 and 5 really take advantage of that quality. Like it's genuinely fun. Their mascot demon Jack Frost, and all the Jacks, they have their own thing going on. One of the major ones, Black Frost, is just like,
Yes.
um, hey, hee ho, I want to take over the world, hee ho, and my dumb brain with all the modern concepts and slangs and terms cannot help but just constantly look at lines with he and ho and just go, what is happening? I'm 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 in I'm in a comedy sketch right now. Like this is a joke. Uh, but yeah, it's really cool. There's like a whole there's like a whole side quest thread, which to be honest, I felt like probably should have been part of the main story, but then again, in terms of their involvement with the main story, I guess I can see why it was just made a side quest. It's like it's this whole other plot thread that's just happens to be going on the side, and then you're just like, oh, okay. I guess I can decide if I want to take care of this or not, and you can or not, and it's just like it's one of those things where it's like more moralistically it's an interesting choice in regards to what's happening in the world of the game. In reality of the game, it doesn't matter. So it's really just up to you to decide.
Well,
Yeah,
that's the nature of the side quest, after all.
pretty much. But yeah, SMT5 is a good time. Up at this point in time, has apparently outsold every other uh mainline title. Like 800,000 copies for
Wow.
like 2 months worth, which is pretty good.
Hmm.
Especially for a very niche title series like SMT, even though
Is that
Persona has
West?
enjoyed much more success, but
Yeah. Is that Western sales or international, like, altogether?
I believe altogether.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Still, that's good.
Mhm.
And you're exactly right. For being a niche title, that has done really well for itself. I'm happy for that.
Yeah.
And it's great that the West is getting so much more of these Japanese RPGs, and that they're seeing that they're coming back and getting some revenue for it.
Yeah. We may not be able to get all the ones that were avoided before in the past, but I think if we're just able to just keep getting them from now on, I think that's a fair trade
Good
because
enough.
at this point for a lot of those titles, it's honestly going to be like a miracle to even get ones that work uh to come back as like remasters or ports or whatever. Um
Yeah,
I
going back
mean
and forth.
like geez, Nintendo Switch Online for Japan has SMT 1 and 2, but in Japanese only. Even though there's a fully translated English version of the OS iOS port of SMT1 that's just sitting there. I don't know what they're doing with that. So yeah, like that's what I mean.
Uh,
It's one of those things. But yeah, SMT5 slightly debatable as a Christian if you should play it or not, but I highly recommend it. Just stick to your guns and don't be easily swayed by other demons.
know your difference between Christian and Gnosticism for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, that's another
For
thing
sure.
too. I need to strongly stress that there are a lot of Judeo-Christianic uh aesthetic choices made, but it is strongly based on the Gnostic version.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
If
I
anyone
know
has been interested in checking out SMT but has just felt like if you're religious or Christian, you just felt like I don't know if I should play this or let like one of my kids play it. Like coming from me, it's like gotta know the difference. Like that's pretty much it. So I think like if you just have that discussion from the start, I think a lot of those things can be avoided. Um, there there
Yeah,
are I would argue there are much more dangerous ways to become detached from your religion than through Shin Megami Tensei of all things, where it's just like
agreed.
where it's literally just like you play as a character who subjugates demons. So like I don't know what to tell you. uh but yeah, and again, I just talked about Shin Megami Tensei, and that's not even part of what I did. Got back into Genshin Impact. I was watching Tectone stream earlier today because he's doing a giveaway, and as we wait for 2.4 to drop, uh, actually the update should be, rather the maintenance for the update should be done right now. So I'm probably gonna hop on there afterwards.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
You, do you have a favorite from Genshin?
Mm,
That may be too oversimplified. Do you have one based on function? Do you have one a favorite based on style, or do you have one overall?
okay.
Does that help?
So style is a little bit harder because it's like, well, I could just say Raiden Shogun and be done with it, but that's kind of like a power gap between her and a lot of the rest of the cast. Um,
Uh-huh.
in terms of just like story, I think like Yoimiya's whole story is really good, honestly, even for a side story. Um, I think I think the entire thread leading up to fighting Tartaglia is also really good. Just because it's like it was kind of like a foreshadowed event where like it was kind of obvious from the beginning you were gonna fight Child at some point. You just didn't know when. And considering he was like the second boss, essentially, was very appropriate. And and playing the first time is a very fun boss. Playing it now, it's just like unfortunately the magic is gone because I'm just going like, um, I need a co-op team to help me run through this boss fight, so I don't have to think about my weeklies anymore. Which is kind of unfortunate, but that's just how it goes. Uh, so yeah, I guess like in terms of story, I like Yoimiya um and Child.
Mhm.
In terms of style, oh, it's kind of cheating, but I'm gonna say Daneslave because he's not available yet, although he will be in the near future. And I'm going to say, uh, this is hard. Like, like pick your fave, like pick your waifu and husbando. It's just like, oh, you're killing me. Um,
Yeah.
hmm,
Uh, sorry about that. We
it's
can move
okay.
on if you need to.
Uh, I mean, I don't know. I honestly, I could, I'd probably just run through the whole cast. So, you know what? I'm just gonna say, pretty easily, Ganyu and Raiden Shogun. Um, and then special mention to Daneslave, if only because like we can't get him yet. We'll just have to see um, once he's available. Uh, okay. One more thing before I get off Genshin.
Go for it.
I was kind of disappointed with Arataki Ito's design. There are probably going to be some people coming after me about that, but I really feel like considering that I got a pretty big kabuki vibe off of him. Um, and like the fact that he's part of the blue Oni, red Oni myth story. I
Yep.
feel like there could have been some relatively more interesting choices that could have been made with his design. Like I wanted him to kind of be like stupid big. Like uh how much of Genshin have you played, Jonathan?
About 2 hours.
2 hours? Okay, so you probably haven't fought Tui then. Um
No.
yeah, I kind of just wanted him to be like stupid big, like not a himbo, but almost like that, like just a big body, if that makes any sense.
So,
Um
just, like, character-wise, just, like, running around with something twice the height of the main character
yeah,
or more?
I mean maybe not twice the height, but just like very obviously larger than life.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I mean his skill set is somewhat interesting, but to be honest, in comparison with a lot of the other Geo characters, it's somewhat samey. Um,
Mhm.
due to like, and unfortunately, this is like the boring stuff. Essentially, due to like what how like how like stats work in the game, and you need to focus on certain ones for each character to do their best with.
Right.
So like it wasn't very interesting, and like like even then it's like I think his skills are fun, but they're not fun enough to make me want to like even roll for him really. It's kind of like it doesn't quite have I guess the best way to describe it is like the Fortnite feel where like regardless how you feel about that game, whenever they announce a crossover, it's pretty much a hit every time with fans.
True.
Um so yeah, like it's been a while since there's been anything like that. 2.4 is proving to be essentially the biggest one, but I think it's more just because of like uh I think it's not just because of the new characters, but also because of reruns of other characters that are going to be available to roll. Um,
Oh, okay.
in my case,
Right.
I'm really just looking at the new characters right now, because that's too much money to spend. Even on one, it's too much money to spend. That's really my problem. So, uh, yeah, like, yeah, I don't know. Genshin is a mixed bag of some very glaring issues, and this isn't really the right place for it to talk about though. So,
Another time. Another
yeah,
time, perhaps.
yes. Let's see. I have also played um the great Ace Attorney Chronicles. I've been playing that like on the side. Uh,
The new ones?
yes. Or rather, these were the 3DS games that were in Japan only, and then they finally ported them over.
Oh,
Um,
gotcha. The new ones.
yeah. I mean, in our
Sorry.
case, they are the new ones. So, yeah. Uh,
Well, that's okay. So, how are those going?
it's it's still kind of fun. Like the core gameplay is still fairly interesting, but I think I've run into I think I've pretty much like reached my threshold where it's just like um like every new case hasn't really done anything like really surprising for me. Like the whole point of Ace Attorney is to have like a bunch of sparking moments where it's just like, okay, so this leads to this, therefore this leads to this, causing that, but the counter argument is this. refuting a previous point. But if my previous point is actually true, then what is the only other option for this thread to continue? Stuff like that. Like I don't even know if I could really call it a logic puzzle necessarily, but it's just like it it's very satisfying when you're able to kind of put the pieces together yourself of like what the story of the incident that has happened. Um the f- the f- the first case is kind of weird. It's a little rough. Um and it's only because like they have to introduce a couple of new mechanics,
Mhm.
but then it's like pretty much every case they've had to introduce like a new mechanic pretty much. And there can only be
Mm,
like 4 or 5 cases per game. So
mhm.
I'm on the last one right now and it's just like okay, like I hope I'm not going to be introduced to like yet another mechanic or something out of nowhere.
Would be so annoying.
Probably not, but you know, it yeah, so I feel very iffy on Great Ace Attorney Chronicles right now, and it's unfortunately like dowered down my desire to play it.
Mm,
I
right, hard to
think
continue.
yeah, like and I mean like it's not that Ace Attorney hasn't had giant leaps of lot in logic in any of its cases. That there are some absurd assumptions of process of events that you have to assume have happened in order for it to work, and it's just like there are much easier ways to accomplish these things, but we're dealing with a video game, so sure. Um,
We're dealing with a Japanese created video game. And I can say that comfortably because my wife and I went through all three Danganronpa games.
oh yeah, like if you think, oh my goodness, if you think Phoenix Wright is frustrating sometimes due to like you essentially like over learning the plot, and then having to like reverse solve it. Uh, oh my goodness, Danganronpa. I especially that first game. I can understand how people enjoy that series. It just feels like a non-stop slew of events where it's just like you can't be serious. Like it's so obvious who this is. It's like we don't even have to do anything. We know for a fact who it is just by process of events and stuff like that. But I don't know. Danganronpa is
No,
weird, and it's clearly not my cup of tea either. But I mean, I don't know. Would I recommend it? I guess I would if you're not too hung up about it. But I feel like if you're the type of person who was first attracted to um the original Ace Attorney trilogy, it's really difficult to recommend this one. Especially after like the last like what 3 3DS games as well as Miles Edgeworth investigations as well, which were not great either, unfortunately. It uh and I guess the other thing too is like it may also be an issue of localization as well because I feel like ever since the 3DS games and this one even more than those ones that focused on Phoenix Wright again, there are a lot of attempts at humor where I'm just kind of like rolling my eyes or just going like, "Why are you wasting my time? Can we please move on with the story?" because I want to get back to the mystery, which is the more interesting part of your game. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I'm a bit mixed in recommending Great Ace Attorney Chronicles right now. There's a second game I'd have to get through too if I really want to do that. So I don't know. Um, but anyway, that's enough about that. Played a little bit of Rhythm Doctor, which came out a while ago. This is a rhythm music game. Um, Pretty fun, honestly. Probably one of the more difficult games I've I've ever played, even though it's essentially like a one button game. Um, it plays with rhythm a lot, like a lot. It's stuff like play on the 12th beat, playing half beat, playing triplet, and stuff like that. Um, there was like this really good optional song that you could play that was kind of like a short rap song. And I was just vibing, but I did kind of struggle with like keeping on beat with the game. It does change tempo on you um pretty drastically without um that requires you to like be paying attention to it. Um
I see
I
what you mean. I'm
Yeah.
watching, the video of it on the Steam page,
Oh yeah.
and I thought at first it was, like, glitching out, but I realized that's the song. I'm like,
Yeah, that's
"Oh,
the game. Yeah, I
oh."
think I know the one you're talking about. Yeah, that's the game itself doing that. Which is
Nice.
pretty
Wow.
nuts. Like is it harder than Everhood? Maybe. Uh like I didn't even get that far. I played maybe like 6 stages or something, and some of them were kicking my butt. Um
Mm.
but it's been a while since I played rhythm games too. I'm not quite the beat master as I used to be. And I wasn't even much one to begin with. I just really liked Elite Beat Agents. That's about it. Um, and okay, so this is the big one I dumped a lot of time into. Gunfire Reborn. Um,
Oh.
I think I think it's done with all of its updates right now. Because I picked it up when it came out of early access. I'm not sure if they're planning on expanding it more or not, but I really like that game so far. I've been doing like
Yes.
I've been doing a lot of runs. Like, what is it? Yeah, I've played like 20 hours already. Um,
Nice.
and I really like it because even though it's a roguelike, I feel like I can just play, maybe 3, 4, or 5 games. Um, Still haven't beaten it, but the point being is that I can pick it up, play for a while, and then just be like, I'm done. And then I don't feel the urge to keep going. Like what is
Mm,
it? Like with Binding of
that's an
Isaac.
excellent
Binding of
uh,
Isaac was really hard to kick for me. To
oh,
the point where it's just like
so
I think I literally just burned myself out on it. I haven't even checked out Repentance yet either. Um
me neither, but honestly, after Afterlife, I think I was done myself. I mean, so what did you mean by it was hard to kick? Like it was hard for you to stop playing?
yeah,
Okay, it was
because
kind of easy for me to stop playing because I sucked really bad at it.
oh well, I mean I played the original Flash version um back when that came out, and I was
Yeah,
really liking that. And then when Rebirth came out, there was like a whole bunch of new stuff for
it
me to
went from
find
like
out, and it
what
was just
6
like,
to 14 endings or something.
yeah. I think we're at 20 now. Um,
Yeah. Oh my
no,
goodness.
sorry. There's more than that now. I think it's like up to 30 or something. Um, yeah.
Good
Yeah,
grief.
I made it to I made it to the super boss once, and that was not fun. Um, it was getting
The
to the
last
point where it's just like this is stressful. Like I'm not even feeling like I'm not even feeling on the edge. I just feel stressed, like I'm working essentially. That's how bad it was getting. Um, and then I think pretty much after that, it was just kind of like, yeah, I think I'm done with Isaac for now. Cause
mm,
ooh,
yeah,
that super boss though. Oh my goodness,
I'm
just
like, you talk about the super boss that takes finding 2 keys randomly in, like, the heaven or hell secret doors at the end of the boss fights.
no. I'm talking about the one you have to fight. You have to do after you beat the one you're talking about.
There's one after that, oh
Yeah,
my goodness.
yeah. Edmund McMillan is a madman.
Jesus. Oh,
The fact that he still hasn't like stopped thinking of ideas for the game is insane. Uh
you're right, he has over hundreds of
yeah.
items. Oh
He he's literally moved on to other projects and he's still coming up with stuff for the game.
oh, yeah, I can put that in.
He put out a puzzle roguelike, he put out 2 card games, and he's still updating Binding of Isaac. And I'm just
Yeah,
like, "Bro, can can we get a break?" I
yeah.
I'm done. I'm I'm done. I still gave you more money, but I'm done. Uh,
Right, right.
it's
Yeah.
nuts. But yeah, Gunfire Reborn's fun. It's it has that same progression like in Rogue Legacy or Hades, where after each death you can upgrade bit by bit of
Mm,
like passes and stuff. So I guess like it kind of leans on the easier side in my opinion, which is weird for me to say because like I said, I haven't beaten it yet. But
mhm.
at the same time, it's also just like um it feels like one of those games where you can just chip at it at your own pace, and then eventually you'll reach a point where you will be able to clear it, and um it's not gonna be like you're gonna have to like play your heart out or something to achieve.
I
Uh
got you. I got you.
yeah. Some of those character sets honestly are really fun. I can't even really say which one's my favorite because they're all kind of fun, but right now I'm on the tiger whose whole gimmick is like lightning and stacking up on one really big hit. Uh I guess like I guess the best way to describe it is like he has an ultimate that's basically zeros from Borderlands 2. It works the same way, but it doesn't give you stealth. Um it gives you higher movement speed and does a little bit of shock damage when you activate it.
Mhm.
But then as soon as you hit something with a gun, then it deactivates. And it's basically all about that. So far it's like he's the farthest I've gotten with, so I'm probably gonna stick with him for a while. I really like his set, honestly. And the passes are fun to mess around with, even though there's like very clearly um a very a very broken build you could go for if you're lucky enough.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, that's pretty much it. There's like one more character I need to unlock, but that's gonna be a while. Uh, I don't, and like I said, I don't know if they're gonna add more. I feel like they could because there are some parts where the game still doesn't feel 100% polished. Like I still feel like there are some parts where they could polish it up a bit too, but
Mhm.
other than that, game's pretty fun. I don't think it's on sale anymore, but it's
Well, it still
whoops.
is.
Uh oh yeah, it's on sale right now for $15. But you won't be seeing it by the time this goes up. It's normally like $20, and I think that's a pretty good deal. It's co-op too.
That sounds
Uh,
good for a co-op game.
I
I
was
will
thinking
say, you
about
got me intrigued.
I was thinking about maybe organizing a GUG stream, of four-player co-op of this game, but I don't even know if anyone's playing this or not, so we'll have to see. Maybe I'll just do my own stream of that, but who knows?
Go for it.
Um, and then finally, uh, literally an hour before we started recording, uh, I checked out Escape Simulator. Um,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
the escape room game, which I think is up to normally 2 to 3 people to play together or something, um,
Mhm.
if I remember correctly. Yeah. Um, yeah, we basically just me and my buddy, we basically just ran through, like, 5 rooms, and, I would say I was flexing my brain pretty hard, but honestly, he was doing a lot of the flexing. He's a much smarter guy than me, so I was just like, I wanna help too. Let me help, man. Come on. Let me do
He would
something let me be
he would
smart.
he would get them, and he would let you get others.
Yeah. Uh, I basically just, like, had to follow up on him and be like, "Okay, what's he doing? Okay, I got you." And then I just do other stuff and be like, I'm not even gonna ask. I'm just gonna do the other part of this thing, and we'll just meet in the middle." Uh, yeah. Um, honestly, that's a lot of fun. I would love to see more of this game. I can easily see this game being expanded on, with DLC and stuff like that. It does look like it has workshop support too, so maybe I'll take a look at that, as well, just to see what other people have come up with. Um, and I mean, I did play some fighting games, but there nothing really of note other than who is it? Uh, Umbrella Early Access is available for Skullgirls Second Encore.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
still can't really get a feel for that character, honestly, so I'm just not gonna say anything. Grand Blue Fantasy Versus, uh, kind of had like a ghost release of two new characters for that game. Um, and probably unfortunately no announcement of rollback, which I was kind of hoping for because I do genuinely like the game, but um, online is a pretty big issue right now.
Mm.
Uh, here's hoping that DNF Duel will fix that issue, and maybe they can roll back roll back uh the fighters and versus and fantasy versus at some point. We'll see. Uh, and yeah, that's it. That's everything. So, uh, we're trying to get through that as fast as possible, but it's okay. We're gonna keep
It
going.
is what it is.
Yeah,
That's right.
it is what it is. So, uh, we're just gonna open straight into it. There's been what am I saying? There hasn't been a discussion. I was asking our group chat about like how do you call it, the nature of Metroidvanias and what makes a Metroidvania, and does it even mean the thing that we think it means
Mhm,
now, uh or is it just or is it just a bunch of baloney, which is what I really wanted to say. But we're trying to be fair, and we're just gonna open up a discussion. So,
mhm.
um, I'm not sure if we're I'm not sure if we're necessarily the best people to talk about this, because I don't honestly have too much experience with a lot of Metroidvania games.
Oh,
Um,
really?
well, not a whole lot. I've played a few, but I wouldn't call myself necessarily an expert like Derek is an expert on Metroid games. Um,
Mm.
so, with that established, well, I mean, I don't know. What about you, Jonathan? How much have you played?
I have played through all of Hollow Knight. I just got started last year on Super Metroid for the first time ever.
Mhm,
And I believe even some time ago before that, I purchased the Symphony of the Night port for the PS4, along with the Rondo of Blood uh, edition,
mm,
and started playing that because I really like Metroidvania games. I am I was a fan when Hollow Knight came out, although I didn't know exactly what it was. I just knew everyone was talking about this little bug game, and when I saw it, I was like, "Oh, wow." I fell into the easiest trap that I always fall into, beautiful game art, and I noticed that the cover art looked just as good as the gameplay itself.
mhm.
So, I booted it up and paid the 15 bucks, and I played the first level and said, "Wow, this is boring." And
I love
I
all that
quit.
setup for you to just go, "I was not having it."
Oh, this is worthless. Um, but then, of course, sometime later, people were talking about how great it is and how admittedly the first part of it is just a little bit of drag, but once you get past it, it opens up and sh true to form, you get just a little bit ways, and I mean, the game just takes you away, and I was hooked. I was hooked on the difficulty, the beauty of it, the wandering around and gathering upgrades. It reminded me of Rayman back in the PS1 days, reminded me of, Crash and Spyro and all them, even though those aren't at all uh Metroidvania games, but in some ways maybe similar due to how the character does evolve with upgrades and how then you can go back and backtrack and replay games and re-see how you see the game. But oh yeah. Let's see, so there was Hollow Knight, there's also Ori, which some people also consider, and I'm sort of making my way through that. Um, but there's also Lodos, which we talked about earlier. And I saw someone talking about that. May have been you and Maurice talking about it, and and then I saw that it was fairly cheap and in is it still in early access or is it still
Uh,
being worked on?
I believe it is fully out now. Oh my
Okay,
goodness,
then it's
Steam.
definitely time.
Steam constantly unmuting itself and putting me on blast. Goodness.
Oh, when you watch the videos?
Yes.
Same.
Uh, oh wait,
Okay,
I'm just
yeah,
gonna look at my library because I haven't installed.
same. That's what
Um,
I'm looking at. Yeah, it looks like it's finished and has achievements and all that.
yeah, I'm pretty sure. Okay, yeah, record of Lotus War. Um, Wonder Labyrinth or Deedlit in Wonder Labyrinth.
In the Wonder Labyrinth.
Which of course I'm gonna do this because this is how I be. Um, Developed by Team Ladybug, who uh previous to this made Toho Luna Nights, which is pretty much just
Ooh.
it is it is basically just a Symphony of the Night clone. Like almost beat for beat in similar ways. Except it's also a Toho game, so there's also bullet hell in it. Uh Goodness, that last boss took a lot out of me to finally beat. That was rough. And I haven't even beaten the secret boss yet, and I'm scared. Uh,
Well, confession time. I I got 2 of the 3 endings, uh, the right way in Hollow Knight. I haven't finished the Moth officially yet.
hmm,
I did some modding, because I saw the mods were pretty cool, and so I used modding as an excuse to practice fighting the Moth, and accidentally beat it. Uh, so yeah, no, I'm right there with you. Those final bosses on those games, are they'll eat you alive.
mhm, yeah, yeah. That's probably more the Dark Souls, uh, in Hollow Knight,
Mhm.
rather than like the Metroid or the Castlevania version. Which, by the way, is what we're talking about. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
so according to Wikipedia, Metroidvania is a subgenre of action-adventure video games focused on linear and utility-gated exploration and progression. The term is a portmanteau of the names Metroid and Castlevania, whatever. And I believe that the term was first coined to describe specifically Symphony of the Night when that game came out. Um, Not necessarily because uh not necessarily because I think like that's what reviewers are feel that's what the reviewer was feeling like calling that type of game, but just I believe if the source that I checked before is to be is correct, it was just used as an easy way to describe the feel of Symphony of the Night as a game because Symphony of the Night allows for backtracking, or rather, it was the first Castlevania game to use backtracking, and
Yeah,
there are areas that require you to get certain utilities to reach those areas.
right.
I'm not. I I know I know there are some bugs that you can do to skip some parts, but I don't know the degree. Again, I'm not really that well experienced, and even then, it's just like even for me, I was playing like Dawn of the Moon. Um, like I played Dawn of the Moon, the sequel to that game, and then Order of Ecclesia. Those are really like the only Castlevania games that I played up to a certain degree where it's like I know for the most part what happens in those games.
Gotcha.
Um, and then Metroid, haven't really played any of those honestly, but from talking to my friend and discussing with Derek when we talked about Metroid Dread, um, Metroid, um, the Metroid series seems to be mainly focused on uh exploration and backtracking, whereas Castlevania is more about challenge, if that makes sense. Like it's not necessarily about I mean yes, you do explore Dracula's castle in almost every Castlevania game, or a castle of some sort to a degree,
Mhm.
but it's mostly linear, and it's really just about like the fact that you do not move quite as fluidly as some 2D platformers would normally let you, and you fight some bosses with or bosses. You fight enemies with some tricky patterns or attacks, and you're essentially just trying to figure out, okay, I'm limited in this way, I'm limited in this way, and I have to attack these enemies in a certain way to overcome them, and then move on to the next challenge. I guess in another way, you could say this is an evolution of a 2D version of Resident Evil, if you want to look at it like that.
Right.
Um, where uh Resident Evil 1 through 3 were all about like trying to sell you on the atmosphere of those games by presenting you with certain challenges uh, that fed into the feel of that atmosphere.
Mhm.
So I guess to a certain degree, Castlevania does that as well, but is more focused on the as a 2D platformer rather than as a 3D game. So so the term Metroidvania is to combine the exploration and the challenge into one, or at least incorporates or at least incorporates parts of these two series together
Mhm.
um to make something different. And like it can be utility based, it can just be like it can be movement based even. You brought up Rayman before, which is in some ways like a very uh which I would say maybe um a more stricter version of probably a Metroid clone, where it's really all linear, but you still are progressing by getting upgrades as you progress through the game. So I
Mhm.
actually, did I say Metroid clone? I meant to say Castlevania clone
Okay.
then.
Castlevania
Um
clone.
yeah. Um
Which yeah, actually, yeah, that makes more sense 'cause you're right. The Metroid or Castlevania games were more linear and than Metroid.
Although actually, you know what? Maybe Metroidvania does describe Rayman a lot better because I never finished Rayman, but I definitely remember the third world, the music world. And and those are some really challenging platforming levels that you have to go through. Which I guess would make it I guess it might make it more Metroid based, maybe? Am I applying this logic correctly?
Mm.
See, this is what I mean. It's like it's kind of confusing whenever we use Metroidvania as a term, because it's it hasn't necessarily been set in stone as to what that's supposed to be. Like
Right,
like a lot of the times I feel like whenever someone describes a game as a Metroidvania, I I struggle to understand um what kind of generalization they're trying to go for when they say that.
right,
Um because like, you know, aside from my ideas of both those games, it doesn't really give me a clear picture because um there are a lot of games in the last uh what is it? Like
3, 4 years, 5.
yeah, like even in the last few years where it's just like, well, how do these games fit into Metroidvania? Like it'd be kind of easy to describe that for something like Hollow Knight, but I've heard it described for Shovel Knight, which I'm not even sure if that's necessarily true, even though it does have even though it does have um util it has tools that are more akin to Castlevania, but it plays more like Mario, or no, it plays more like Mega Man.
There you go.
Um so I think Hollow Knight, or I think Shovel Knight
Many nights.
is closer to a Mega Man clone than
Yes.
a Metroid or Castlevania clone.
Yes.
Um, I think Hollow
Yeah.
Knight fits that description more. Um, the Deedlit and Wonder Labyrinth, I would definitely say fits the Metroidvania um, like spectrum. Um, whereas I think it's a little bit closer to uh I think it's a little bit closer to Metroid because that because especially when you if you've played Toho Luna Nights. Toho Luna Nights I would say is a lot closer to Symphony of the Night, which is the original Metroidvania.
Mhm.
So it strikes a little bit more of a balance between the two franchises where like um you have some movement options, but you also have to deal with some pretty tricky enemies as well. Whereas Deedlit and Wonder Labyrinth, it does a lot more with how to interact with the environment itself. Um, I remember you were talking about the bow and arrow right before we started recording, actually. Um, and that bow is used for some puzzles uh, to further progress, and then there are actually like two tools that you get that is really just essentially just one upgrade
Mhm.
um, in order to like complete it. Um, that essentially allows you to depending on which one you use, it gives you a buff, but it also lets you pass certain barriers, which is kind of like Metroid with the missile doors or the ice beam doors.
Yeah.
So
And for posterity, we're, like, talking about Super Metroid, which I know you
yes,
were is what you were talking about, but
yeah,
nobody I don't I think anyone just specifically thinks of only Super Metroid in terms of that.
yeah. I was just looking at the Wikipedia article again. One thing, and one thing that jumped out at me that I forgot to mention. I think is I think probably the biggest one that stands out to me the most is when people talk about a platformer being a Metroidvania when it has RPG elements, which to me this is probably one of the more nebulous qualities where I'm just like I'm not sure if that really quantifies or qualifies rather um as counting as a Metroidvania, where it's more like it's more like an elaboration where it's something you can just add onto the game itself for uh some explicit depth, you know, like in Symphony of the Night, yeah, you could level up, but I mean like you would just level up naturally as you progress through each level. I'm not even really sure if you can say if anyone can say grinding is really necessary to do in Symphony of the Night. Um,
Right,
so
except for one extremely broken weapon, but yeah, you're
okay,
right.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, you're exactly right. Gosh, and you're right. Symphony of the Night had RPG elements, but I didn't remember them. I don't remember them at all every time I think of Symphony of the Night.
Hmm. Oh,
Sorry, I just saw that. I just realized the Castlevania Advance Collection is on Steam. I didn't know that. I'm very happy now.
yeah.
Anyway,
I,
moving on.
yeah, I actually picked that up on Switch because I want to recreate the handheld feel actually. So
Yes, I'm sure.
also
I'm sure
Rondo
that
of
that.
Blood is on there too. So it's like, well, yeah. I mean, I didn't get to play it on that other failed Sega portable console. So this is like the next best
Oh,
thing. What even was it again? I know the Game Gear
wasn't
was
that
one, but what was the other one?
the Sega CD?
No, 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 handheld.
Oh, handheld.
Sega had two.
Neo Geo?
No, that's a different company. That's SNK.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Just throw out the first thing that pops in my head.
Yeah. Wait, no, that's not SNK. That is Neo Geo. Neo Geo is Neo Geo. What am I talking about? Anyway, not important.
Right, so, back to what we're talking about.
Yeah, so yeah, so like I think that's what it is. Like especially if you're gonna talk about Metroidvanias in general, I think it is like specifically just like that balance between uh exploration and challenge, whatever that actually means. Because that's not necessarily combat. Um it, it's it could be seen as more like it could be seen more as like as you progress from screen to screen, you're presented with a problem and there are elements that you can interact with and then you have to solve that problem. But it doesn't always equate to platforming. It could also be combat or a combination or also just like, hey, there's a secret in here or something like that. Um
Yeah, yeah, I think I'm picking up what you're putting down. The, okay, challenge room is I think what you're is how I'm gonna describe it.
mhm,
So from each room, you've got like a different challenge and not necessarily combat. It could be combat plus step on this switch so that the spikes come down so you can get to the other side.
yeah. But then like of course the the switch is pressure sensitive, so you have to keep on it or keep going. Well,
Right.
what if, say, like in Toho Luna Nights, you had the ability to stop time? So then you could actually step on the switch, stop time, go through that chasm, and then unstop time on the opposite side, and then
Yeah,
you've
there you
completed
go.
that challenge.
Right, right.
Um,
And as I think as I'll keep continuing through Super Metroid, they don't exactly have that. Uh they might have some instances of that, but I believe you're right to where exploration is more of the driving force for Super Metroid and
yeah,
using your abilities that you gather to explore better.
mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
because
Okay.
like, what is it? Like the classic example is I don't know what those enemies in Metroid are called, but you use the ice missiles on them to create platforms um
Yeah.
to get to like move up move up in a certain area where it's like, well,
Right.
obviously this goes up, but I can't move any further, so obviously I need to use the ice missiles to make more platforms for me, so I can keep going up and stuff like that. Um,
Right.
yeah, because like what is it? Like the classic example is like I don't know what those enemies in Metroid are called, but you use the ice missiles on them to create platforms to get to like
Right. and the upgrades in Castlevania Symphony of the Night are more geared towards solving the puzzle better
Mhm.
and advanced. Okay, yeah. All right. The only reason I'm, regurgitating everything we just said is because I walked in here to this conversation ready to say, I don't know why it's called Metroidvania. It should just be called Metroid because Symphony of the Night has nothing that deters itself away. But now I see, and you're absolutely right.
Mhm. Because, like, even if we're talking about the original games for each franchise, the problem is I can't really say for Metroid in particular, so maybe you can pick up on that. But I would say definitely for Castlevania. Castlevania was all about tackling these extremely difficult screens where it's
Mhm.
just like you're fighting against skeletons with like uh these dumb throwing arcs to their projectiles. Uh Fleamen who seem to jump around almost randomly, making it difficult to decide when to attack them.
Mhm.
Um, Medusa heads, uh, Medusa heads not even attacking you, but just being a pure obstacle of just like not even just moving forward across gaps, and
Mhm.
like specifically rooms that had gaps where it's just like if I fall here, it's my death. And
Right.
you have limited lives in that game too before having to start over at the beginning of the level. um there's like fishmen who just jump out of the water and will try to rush at you or attack you from afar. There's uh yeah, like I think, because I'm not even sure if I want to call those puzzles. It's like I think it's really just like obstacles, honestly.
Mhm.
um
Mhm. And
and what is it like? Oh, it's actually, you know what? Go ahead.
the original Metroid I played a little bit of just actually the other day, and I it's weird they started me off uh with all the upgrades and stuff. So I don't know if like the original Metroid has a beginning similar to Symphony of the Night, or if there was something special that they were doing with the ROM of the game. But
Mhm.
uh, I got lost and I was wandering around, but I was dealing with the same thing you were talking about, obstacles of enemies and their different patterns of walking around. Um, and I think there was some there was probably a little less on the exploration, but I will say that the exploration is what killed me eventually. I got stuck in lava and I couldn't get out for some reason. So I just had to wait till all my energy tanks depleted.
Oh man, that sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like um just to like keep it more relevant, I suppose, like we could even look at the changes that were made in Samus Returns and as well as Metroid Dread, where Samus Returns is almost like not a redefinition, but a bit of a reimagining of what your character can do in a game of Metroid, where it's like, okay, well, what if Samus had a parry? Like what if we gave her more options for attacking or really defense? Um, and like I know for some people that wasn't really well received, but I think that's a very interesting decision to make, to kind of spice up the formula. Um, and then in Metroid Dread, you have the stealth segments, which are which is something uh you wouldn't think you would see in a Metroid game because it doesn't really make sense necessarily. But I mean oh shoot, what is it? What is it? There's a game. It's like in those cinematic 2D platformer games like Another World or Prince of Persia when it's just like what do you do when what do you do when you're faced with an obstacle you cannot overcome, you know? And that's like and now it's like that's it's asking that question in Metroid, you know.
Mm.
It's not just it's not necessarily just an addition, it's trying to it's trying to push it forward now. It's okay, it's Metroid has been a while. We like put in a little few things with Samus Returns, but now we want to like do something else now. Like what if we what if we added a stealth segment to Metroid? You know, like what can you do with that? How can the player interact with the environment in a totally in a okay, not totally new way. In a new way that they have not done before with our series, you know.
Mhm.
Because like, you know, the Metroid Prime series, they didn't really have to think about that because transitioning from 2D to 3D presents new a whole new set of problems to address. So it didn't really have to worry about advancing the formula. It had to worry about adapting the formula. Um,
Right.
so which is why which is why for me especially like I really want to get to playing the Metroid series as soon as possible just so I can play Dread and start to see like okay, what were the game devs thinking when they started adding in this new stuff? Like were they trying to think like are they trying to force the player to like shift their thinking to the situation and um or are they just trying to make or are they just trying to add something fun or new? Are they trying something different? Like I like at least for Metroid, it's like I think it's very interesting to see where they're going with Metroid Dread, and I'm sure for anyone who's finished that game, they're more excited to see where Nintendo will go after that now, if they decide to do so. Um, so maybe ultimately, like it's not necessarily about what constitutes a Metroid clone or a Castlevania clone, or what even constitutes necessarily a Metroidvania. It's probably just more like what are people doing with what's been established before that could be done now with a similar format at least, you know?
Yes, I do know. Earlier, and I'll plug in the YouTube channel. Adam Millard. Uh, he's I like his stuff on YouTube. Yeah. I mean, you two, I think the same when it
Oh,
comes to
you're talking about the
recomm
architect, yeah.
the architect.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, um, yeah, and I've just been sitting here like tapping my fingers, like, oh my gosh, yeah. He's like just about to get to everything you're talking. You're about to get to everything like I heard today. Yeah, no, like to just sort of add on. or continue with what you just finished saying with what can they do with the formula that's already established, and what should be done.
Hmm.
Well, my thoughts on Metroid Dread uh, are it. I don't see anything wrong with Nintendo trying to do something new. I think as we are older and we've seen more games, we can definitely see that they're testing the waters. Um,
Yes, absolutely.
it's because if stealth really was implemented um, the right way, then there probably would have been, and I haven't played it yet, so forgive me, y'all who are Metroid Dread fans, and if I step on you, you can come talk to me. But if it was implemented the right way, then it would have been seamless, and it would have had multiple functions. At least um, like two or three different ways that stealth could have been used, and not just for the new like robot enemies. Um, what the architect describes and the heart of a Metroidvania is a developing and evolving a relationship with the world as terms of what the character is doing.
Hmm.
And he really liked the Metroid series, um, because for that instance of once you once you start out with nothing, you basically go in Super Metroid in a big loop, and by the time you enter that other loop, you've already got the suit, you've got the super missiles, uh, and you've got new ways of exploration to go back around through that loop uh, to see the game in brand new ways. AKA what you're talking about with the ice beam earlier. You
Hmm.
were like, oh, I can now make those platforms. I can go further up now and see where that goes. Um, and uh, so my original thought, time to plug in my own, is, and I think you've hit on it multiple times. Metroid, uh, Metroidvania does exist in multiple games, but are they purely Metroidvania games? No. Do they have elements of said Metroidvania? Yes. And it's funny that they contain those elements since they are two elements of two different games brought together to become one. Um, and when you take a step back and go look at the category of Metroidvania, what qualifies one is that is okay, what are they doing with the already existing formula and enhancing that, or are they just making a complete clone?
Yeah, definitely. I will say the presence of clones is felt a lot more than actual
Indeed.
than games that actually try to do something different, like uniquely different, or at least advance it in some way. Like if you really want to talk about um if we're going to talk about like specific, at least specifically like 2D platformers that play like Castlevania or that play like Castlevania or Metroid that does something very different. I think Rogue Legacy honestly fits that because Rogue Legacy is like not only is it the um is it like the first Rogue Light game, it's also it's also the game that um that I'm not sure if it was this game that made me think that, but it was the game that that I remember the earliest where I thought, "Oh, this is applying the Metroidvania elements in a different way by making it a loop rather than like a quote unquote open map, if that makes any sense."
Yeah, it
Um,
does.
so I think that definitely works. And like if you have that website of Metroidvania.com
Yeah.
open, some of these titles are definitely debatable, but there are some that make me go like, yeah, I think in terms of Metroidvania, these would definitely count as calling them that. Like for example, Cave Story. Cave Story is um definitely constitutes a Metroidvania where it actually plays around with its weapons and um gives you something different with that, it like Cave Story is not just open ended, but it also allows you to play the game in different ways if you choose to do it that way.
Hmm.
Like there's an ending if you just stick with the starting gun. There's an ending if you get all the guns, but then you sacrifice them all to get like the big super gun near the end. There's an
Hmm.
ending where there are endings depending on like which bosses you decide to fight or not. You decide to fight
Hmm.
or skip. Uh, somewhat similar to the GBA Castlevania games like Dawn of Sorrow, where there was like a good and bad ending. Um, the machine gun basically lets you essentially works like a makeshift jetpack to let you move vertically. Move vertically.
Nice.
And
Oh, okay.
looking through more. Shantae apply. Shantae is kind of a Metroidvania in sort of the loosest sense, where I would say the application isn't super deep, but it does something but it does something slightly different where it's all about like unlocking upgrades as you progress, and then you can double back to older levels to see if you can unlock other secrets. Um
I saw one and I remembered, I'm in the middle of it, The Messenger,
yeah,
um,
Messenger is definitely
sort of meant to be kind of like the love letter to, like, the Ninja Gaiden games, but I totally think it carries that, Metroidvania feel, to it, especially in the latter half.
mhm. It does borrow like essentially what is essentially the Metroid save room too.
Yeah, yeah.
But I haven't gotten far enough. Does it require backtracking quite often?
So I'm gonna try not to spoil story things, but you get a map and you can go back to everywhere you've went, um, and you can travel back and forth between its time periods of those areas,
Okay.
which is necessary for obtaining the things and progressing the game.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. And then yeah, so
Um,
like, it is this whoever came up with this website he hasn't updated it in a few years since then, but even then there are some very interesting choices that are made here, like Like La Mulana as well. La Mulana, I would say, it's definitely Castlevania-ish. I'm not sure if it's Metroid. I'm not sure if it's Metroid-like, but it's more closer to Castlevania. I would say it's also a roguelite, I think, as well. Um, I can hear my buddy screaming at me for using roguelite. The genre of rogue is also another topic, but I'm not even sure if I would even be able to talk about that. Metroidvania is kind of an easier one to talk
And
about.
that's the thing is you brought that up, and I brought up Ninja Gaiden, and at this point, the the genres are so intertwined with each other now that it's hard to pull them all apart and purely say, at least for me, I think it's hard to say purely which type of game it is because it's all a hodgepodge.
Yeah.
Like, I'm looking at the passing screens of Rogue Legacy, and there's an eyeball boss, and, oh, I mean, those have components of a bullet hell game.
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean, like, I mean, there are some other games on here too that don't make me immediately think Metroidvania, but then you think about it and it's just like, "Oh, yeah, you know what? There are bits and pieces here and there that while maybe not strictly adhering to one philosophy of design, from
Mhm.
either one, there are elements that they borrow that give the same feel, as, one of those games. I mean, like, you've got Shadow Complex, you've got Bionic Commando Rearmed, but, I mean,
Easy.
that's really more like a Bionic Commando, remake rather, so it's hard to really say. You've got Aquaria. Man, that game is old. I haven't heard Aquaria in a long time. And Aquaria, looking back on it now, I honestly feel like Aquaria would be closer to like Echo the Dolphin more than anything.
Yeah.
But you know what? At the time when that game came out, that's around the time where people were just like, man, I just want to play Symphony of the Night again, but I don't want to play Symphony of the Night specifically. And then suddenly everyone was just coming out with their own Symphony of the Night game at that time. I want to be the guy. Oh my goodness. You want to talk about a game that is actually like Metroidvania, like the Metroidvania the most? I want to be the guy is that because but like you don't even get upgrades, but it's all about exploration. Every screen is a challenge because you don't know what's going to happen to you. And every time you see a save spot, you thank God that you've gotten to that part, but you're also swearing under your breath because you're not even sure if you're going to make it far enough to get to that save point. You could be dead before you even take another step. Even. Oh my goodness, I want to be the guy. That's kind of crazy to me, honestly. Like, yeah, I want to be the guy totally fits Metroidvania 100%. And it doesn't have upgrades. Like at all. The upgrade is yourself getting better. Uh there was like another one further down that I saw. Yeah, Kirby and the Amazing Mirror. Kirby and the Amazing Mirror is just it's Symphony of the Night with with a HUD. Like like at any
Well,
point you can just return to a
but you're
center.
right.
Yeah. You return to a center worlds, and as you progress through the game, you unlock save rooms, kind of like in Castlevania, but they operate similar to later Metroid to other
Oh,
Metroid rooms where you can teleport in between them.
Huh. I'm seeing it now.
Yeah.
Huh. So yeah. Wow.
But again, it's just like there are more stricter adherences to the term, and then there are ones that are more loose. Like La Mulana, La Mulana obviously swings more towards Castlevania. Shantae swings more towards um Metroid, but it's more linear, so it doesn't really feel like Metroid. So yeah, that's the thing. It's like I think it's just like I mean, well, okay. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what we decide here because it's already so well ingrained
Mm,
into gaming culture
yeah.
that no one even really bats an eye when someone says it either way. But I think it's just like it's so much more interesting trying to just unpack like what does it mean when people try to describe a game a certain way, and it's more like it's just more of an appreciation of each game in particular when it's more like, oh well, like Kirby and the Amazing Mirror does this interesting thing where it borrows something from Symphony of the Night but then gives you a hub world, so then necessarily you don't have to necessarily memorize the map um entirely by heart to make further progress. You can just go back and then refer back to the map to find the places that you haven't been to yet, and then just go from there. Um, to in order to like maybe I don't know, like still retain to the idea that you're exploring on your own, but making that progress, um, that progression, easier to digest for people who are not comfortable with just like looking at a big old map and just losing their minds when they see like I can't process this. It's too intimidating. I'm gonna play something else. I'm gonna go back and play Mario or something like
You know what?
that.
That's funny you mentioned that because I always thought I was weird for liking games that had hub worlds because I felt safe, more rather than I felt in games like Castlevania, where my only sanctum was a tiny room with a coffin and you can save.
Mm,
Yeah, that's interesting.
yeah, because like uh because like even save rooms between uh well save rooms in Castlevania after Symphony of the Night and Metroid save rooms in particular um operate differently. Like it wasn't even until I'm not even sure what Castlevania game even let you start teleporting in between room. Oh no, that wasn't Symphony of the Night. So you know what? I think Symphony of the Night just straight up take that from Metroid
I think they
as a
had
result.
portal rooms.
Yes, they
I don't
did.
remember
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
teleporting
That's
between
right. That's right.
waypoints.
That's right. Yeah,
But yeah, I do remember the waypoints.
yeah. But I think I could be wrong, but I remember specifically that there was like an item you could get that did let you eventually teleport in between rooms, or maybe that was added to a later version of Symphony of the Night, like maybe the Xbox Live Arcade version of it.
Hmm.
Because
Well,
I know the Xbox version of that game is based off the PlayStation one, but there are some parts that make it a little more a little more different, that it's not like completely accurate to the original. Um, but I'm not sure. Like that's the problem. I'm not sure. If that's the original or if I'm even thinking of the right Castlevania game. Uh,
I got you.
which again is why it's like it's really hard to like it's still just really hard to qualify what is what is Metroidvania, you know, because at this point there have already been so many other platformers that have done other things with the formula to the point that um like just calling a platformer now a Metroidvania isn't descriptive enough. Like
Mhm.
it's too general. Like
Yeah.
even platformer like platformer at least makes sense to the to this degree because you still have to navigate. You still have to get from left to right or right to left and so on and so forth. Like that's what
Mhm.
platformers are. You
Right.
get from point A to B or B to A. Uh, so uh, so I don't think we've uncovered any uh amazing truth or whatever, or we're just gonna immediately solve this problem. But I do think at the very least, it's like uh, it's not something to worry about as much. Um, I mean, like, because like I thought about this for a while too, and ultimately, it's just like it hardly matters to me anymore if someone says Metroidvania because now I'm just gonna be like, well, what do you mean? You know,
Right.
because just naturally, playing having played enough of Shovel Knight, having played enough of Hollow Knight, um, and a few other 2D platformers, I'm just going to ask them, "What do you mean by Metroidvania? Like, what can you
Same.
do?" and stuff like that. Um,
Same.
so yeah, again, it's just more interesting to explore the idea of a game rather than just try to quantify its qualities under a title. Um,
I agree.
yeah,
And we may never have a pure example of a Metroidvania.
yeah. Well, I mean, it was already here. It's been over 10 years since that game came out, so I don't think anyone even remembers it anymore. Symphony of the what? Night of the Who? Um, but yeah, yeah. Man, there's some interesting games on here still. I don't know how Pitfall could be considered a Metroidvania. Well, actually, you know what?
Challenge room. I'm leaning more towards that Castlevania.
Yeah, you know what? Never
Great.
mind. That was a dumb mistake.
No,
Forget
it's
it.
okay. I mean, I didn't think Kirby fit into it, but you changed my mind on that too.
Changed my mind.
And I mean, honestly, I think like you came really close to uncovering more of what it is because you've already changed my mind about so much of the genre, especially considering that Castlevania does hold its own just on the challenge room aesthetic, and
Mhm.
Metroid being more focused towards exploration. I think now, like at least for me, this video may just be only for me, Sam. I appreciate that. I will now be able to go and look at games much differently now, and especially Metroidvanias, and I'll be able to break it down, figure out which half it fits on, see if maybe they took the formula and molded it together, a weird exploration slash challenge room game, and uh, yeah, maybe just maybe we'll be able to figure out more and more what's more of just a simple clone slash love letter to Metroid or Castlevania, or which one is taking the genre and truly making it its own.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. Uh, before we finish up, I just wanted to jump back in. Um, you mentioned Adam Millard. A couple of days ago, I actually watched the video that I think that you said you watched,
Mhm.
the Metroidvania one. Uh,
Nice.
one thing I wanted to point out, which I found kind of interesting, is that when talking about more modern versions of the Metroidvania, he brought up um Unsighted as an example, which I thought was interesting because even my immediate reaction was that doesn't make sense because Unsighted is like top down, wouldn't be more like Legend of Zelda. And
Mhm.
then I was like, no, wait, there are upgrades. There are upgrades in that game as well. And then I remembered, oh, oh shoot, uh, oh shoot, Link to the Past is is in a way a Metroidvania as well. It's but the application is more broad. So that's the thing now is like so that's the thing now like how far are we going to stick to certain titles for certain games, because now like you're starting to because like for a long time we've seen games unfold into other genres that many people have felt wouldn't have worked normally,
Mhm.
and it's being proven to be more and more true uh, with each generation. Like, I mean, like I mean, for better or worse, I think the content gumbo that is the Ubisoft formula with Assassin's Creed, having introduced the open world format that is very much popular now with a lot of AAA games
Mhm.
is very much proof that um that while not every game can belong to every genre, not every idea can belong to um every idea can be applicable to every game. So
Interesting.
so I I think in that regard it's just like we shouldn't really worry too much about uh these types of titles anymore.
Mm.
Because I mean, like, I mean, we talked about Metroidvanias today. We haven't even talked about the motherload of them all, RPGs. Like, what is a role playing game? You know?
Lord, my head's starting to spin now.
Yeah, exactly. It's like forget about it. Like,
Yeah.
we can't even touch that. It literally applies to every
No.
but by pure definition, it literally applies to every game.
Every game. Yeah,
Every game.
you got equipment with stats, RPG. You got
If
a little bit of story, RPG.
Yeah, because you always take on a role. That's the thing. Like the player is the role of whatever it is you must do to accomplish the goal in the game. So it's
Mhm.
just like I don't know, like how far do you want to spread out RPG, right?
Exactly. It leaves me scratching my head.
Yeah.
That right there just does, uh, and you get inklings of that when you try and search games like blank in any search engines. Oh, I loved Kingdom Hearts. I want to play more games like Kingdom Hearts. It would be like Kingdom Hearts. Why don't you try Final Fantasy? Oh yeah, but that doesn't have like the action part of it. Oh, you want action? Well, here's the Tales series. Like, yeah, it just keeps
Yeah.
it's like, but that's not
And Tails doesn't even really qualify as like a action RPG unless you're talking about certain ones. is the
Right.
thing too. Like
Tales of
that's another
Tales of
problem.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like if anything, there's a there's another series that is. Or no, wait. Or am I mixing that around? I think I am. Oh, no, yeah. Tales would be more accurate, but, like, I mean, how do you tell someone, "Oh, I wanna play a game more like Kingdom Hearts," and you just look at them and go like, "Well, what do you mean? Like, do you
Mhm.
want the action part? Do you
Mm,
want the
world
menu
exploration part?
micromanaging part?"
Yeah. Do you want the more Disney characters part? Do you
Because Disney Infinity still exists. Well, not really, but um
Well, I mean,
and I mean like even
Arcade
if
is coming out
you
with a new, MOBA Disney.
yeah. Yeah, and the other thing too is like if we're talking about like action RPG, it's like, well, I mean, there's God of War, but then it's like, but is it cool enough? It's like
Yeah,
I don't know. Do you want
yeah.
Devil May Cry then? But
Yeah.
but it's hard, and I'm like, well, I don't know what to tell you then. I guess get good, and or just stick with Kingdom Hearts. Uh,
Sick.
uh, but that's exactly what I mean. You know,
Precisely, yeah.
it's like like game like games are more fun when you're just talking about them and not just trying to say like, oh, I love blank, therefore blank. Um, or or rather like I love X, therefore Y. You know,
Mhm.
it's it's about like learning how to appreciate the games for like the little things that evolve into the bigger concepts that somehow allow us to enjoy other genres that we wouldn't think we would be able to enjoy. You know,
That's actually really true.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you know, obviously, what this means in 5 to 10 years, we're going to get a big resurgence of 4X. 4X is going to be the new big thing. Every game is going to have 4X, and now we're gonna have the conversation again. What is 4X?
What is 4X?
We're going to be talking about action RPG 4X games.
What happened to 2X?
Yeah. Anyway, platformers are cool, and Team Ladybug is awesome. Go buy Wonder Labyrinth and Toho Luna Nights. I'm not just saying that because I wrote a review for Toho Luna Nights or anything.
Oh, now I gotta go read it.
That game is really good though. But yeah, I think that's gonna be it. We went on for quite a while. I feel like I've rambled on the most, but
No, I think you're okay.
yeah.
We
But
went on extra because I learned how to ramble today.
yeah. Oh, rambling's a really good skill until you
Yeah.
start sounding like an idiot, which has happened to me quite a lot. I'm getting there. Oh, every day, but uh
Day at a time.
yeah. Uh yeah, that's going to be it from us. Um if you think I'm dumb and that Metroidvania should stay the way they are, then I say leave a comment down there and prove me wrong. Change my mind. And
Change my
like and I'll also like and subscribe if you can also as well. I'd really appreciate that too. I will totally read your comments as well if you do so.
me too. I'll maybe even leave a reply.
I might reply to you. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
Uh but yeah, that's going to be it. Take care everyone. Have a happy new year and let's make the best of it. Peace.